That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, well, I have good news and I have bad news. We just crushed yet another week of our calls. Seems like we start out every single video like this where I come out and say, okay, well, if you listened to us the week before, we smashed. That's the great news. But the bad news is there's no way that we are going to continue to beat these Vegas lines throughout the entire season. Just knowing how sharp Vegas is, I can do my best. And I'm really glad that we decided to do this and we decided to track it throughout the entire year. Now, I'm not going to necessarily have this off the top of my head. I know we went 5-3 this past week, but Thomas, I'm sure that you have it somewhere. Could you please throw up our overall record this season with our calls? Every single week we're going through and we're picking at least 5 games that we have to pick a side on. Usually we pick 8, usually we pick 9. I mean, usually we're going with almost every game. I'm leaving ourselves some space to go through and have some stay away games because obviously you don't have to make a bet on every single game here. So we're going to go through, we're going to talk about every game. Nonetheless, make sure you drop that like, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a comment letting me know how stupid I am. And let's dive right into it with our first game on Thursday night between the Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. We actually have the Rams currently as 2.5-point favorites. I mean, this is going to be a spot where I think that with Seattle, this is a team I very rarely ever want to go out and bet against. I mean, especially with Shane Waldron looking like he is just running a more effective overall offense than what you had with Brian Schottenheimer over the past few years. But still, with the Los Angeles Rams, we're viewing them as an elite offense at the same time with what we have had from Matthew Stafford so far this season and how Sean McVay has really been able to go through and capture some ability with Stafford that we just simply didn't have with Jared Goff. I mean, you're seeing a lot of these throws that Stafford makes. It's not even really having to fit them into tight windows. It's more so just knowing the progressions of the offense, being able to run a more complex offense, and that's leading to wide open receivers consistently. To go along with this, what I really want to focus in on is with the Seattle Seahawks here, this is not the Seahawks you're used to from, like, at this point, the last time they had a solid defense was what, like 5 years ago? It's a completely different team here. I actually think the Rams have a significantly better defensive unit. So if we're looking at comparable offenses, I never like betting against Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson's historical efficiency. I still think we probably want to go with the Los Angeles Rams here. I think the Rams are a comparable offense. I think they have a significantly better defense, and you're only having to give away 2.5 points. So let's take the Rams. Now, our next game is going to be the New York Jets playing the Atlanta Falcons. Here, this is actually going to be Sunday morning, super early. I mean, they are going to be going through and playing in London, and I think this is going to be a spot where it's so hard to know what to expect with these London games. And at the same time, the spread on this game is going to be 3 points. Obviously, these are 2 East Coast teams. So, I mean, it's equally affecting both teams at the same time. I think personally, I'm just going to have this as a stay away game in that if we had a large favorite here, like if we just say had the Buffalo Bills playing the Houston Texans like last week, where you actually had 16 points on that spread, there I'd probably be taking the points just because those London games, if you look over the past few years, it's been so hard to predict them. And I know this is very bad analysis, but I'm just being honest. If I was going to go through and make these own bets, this is my thought process behind them. And that, yes, I think getting 3 points for the Atlanta Falcons, I don't think that's necessarily enough. I think we would take Atlanta -3 if this was being played in a neutral situation. But I just want to stay away from this game. I think a London game is going to be so hard to choose between. Now, our next game is going to be a very easy one. We got the Green Bay Packers going to Cincinnati to play the Cincinnati Bengals, where the Packers are 3-point favorites. I am very surprised to see this spread. I mean, with the Bengals, yes, this was a team that won last Thursday. They've had 10 days to rest. And if you're going to go through, if you're going to look at what they've done so far this season, I know they're 3-1. Trust me, I get it. Here are the teams they've played. They've beaten Minnesota in overtime. Not that impressive. They beat the Chicago Bears by 3 points. Not impressive in the slightest. They beat the Ben Roethlisberger-led Pittsburgh Steelers, who are currently sitting at 1-2, and they just took it down to the wire and barely took down the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know they're playing at home. Here, I don't understand how this game is only 3 points. I think I would easily be taking the Packers -3. And you know, very rarely am I going through and just slamming these favorites. The majority of the time, I'm looking for the team that we're getting some points added onto. But no, in this instance, I think the Packers are just a better team from every which way you're going to be looking at it. We don't know the health of Joe Mixon here either. Samaje Perine may be the starting running back for the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, I don't necessarily think, have proven that they have a good defense, even though I know that's something that a lot of people want to come out here and say based on the idea that they were able to shut down this Ben Roethlisberger-led Pittsburgh Steelers offense. I'm not buying it. We're going to go with the Packers -3. Okay, so now our next game is going to be the Detroit Lions playing the Minnesota Vikings, where the spread on this game is going to be 7.5 points. And with the spread on this game being 7.5 points, I honestly think it's going to be a wash here. Obviously, the Detroit Lions have yet to win a game, and the Minnesota Vikings simply don't look like the same team they have previously had over the past few seasons. As while I know this defense was successful in quote-unquote shutting down Baker Mayfield, if you looked at Baker Mayfield this past week, he had open wide receivers. I mean, I think that if you would have just had Baker Mayfield as an accurate quarterback here, they would have actually steamrolled what you had with the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are relatively healthy, but 7.5 points is just too much for me. I think this will be a stay away game. Like if it was 6.5 points and we could say, okay, well, we're going to bet on the Minnesota Vikings to win by a touchdown, then sure. But I mean, even if they win by a touchdown here, you're taking the loss. So I think 7.5 is going to be just a little too much. We're going to stay away. Now our next game is going to be the Denver Broncos going to Pittsburgh. And right now you actually have the Pittsburgh Steelers as 1-point favorites here. So this is pretty much a pick 'em. Who do you think is going to win between the Steelers or the Broncos? And y'all know this past week, whenever you had that pick 'em between the Ravens and the Denver Broncos, that was one of my locks of the week. I mean, we jammed in the Baltimore Ravens +1 against Denver. Now, keep in mind, it looks like we're most likely going to have Drew Lock to start this game, as Teddy Bridgewater did suffer that contract. I am recording this on October 5th, however, so this isn't confirmed. So it would be really easy for me to come out and say that we're going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers -1 if we have Drew Lock starting this game. But while it's still in the air, I think that's a little bit of me just going through and cheating, and I don't necessarily want to do that. I don't want to be going what if and then being willing to change our picks back and forth throughout the week. I want to have them all officially on the record in these videos. That way you can go through and you can track them throughout the season and you can see exactly how we're doing. And here, if I'm pulling up Teddy Bridgewater, I'm not seeing any updates on what we have had as of this week. Of course, the concussions are pretty much just going to come down to, can he get past protocol? And I think that we clearly take the Steelers -1 if it's Drew Lock, but because Teddy Bridgewater has not been ruled out this week, I don't want to be going through and putting an asterisk on this pick, so we're just going to have this one as a stay away. Now our next game is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing the Miami Dolphins, where the Buccaneers are 10-point favorites. And yeah, this one's going to be extremely easy. We're going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -10. Don't know if Rob Gronkowski is going to play in this game. Honestly, it doesn't really matter here. With the Miami Dolphins, Jacoby Brissett looks like one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL that we have seen in a long time. Like, let me go through and look up on Pro Football Reference what you've actually had so far with his adjusted yards per pass attempt. Because going into last game, it was actually sitting at 3.8, which 3.8 is hilariously bad. I mean, it's to the point where you're just staring at him. You're going, how the hell are you just that bad at the quarterback position and on an NFL roster? Now he's bumped that up to 4.9. He is sitting directly ahead of guys like Davis Mills, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, right behind Ben Roethlisberger, Mac Jones, Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill, just to give you an instance on like the range of quarterback that we're looking at Jacoby Brissett with. Now with Brissett also, he's going up against a very tough defense. Now keep in mind, you actually have the secondary for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense really banged up. I mean, this is a defense that definitely goes through and leans on the strength of their run defense. With that being said, I just think that Jacoby Brissett is not a quarterback that's going to be able to come out and be able to lead a comeback against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here. I think that we're just going to go through and we're going to bet the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -10. Okay, so now our next game is going to be going over to FedEx Field, where you're going to be seeing the New Orleans Saints play the Washington Football Team, where you have the New Orleans Saints as 1.5-point favorites. I mean, you can find this anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 points. It really is going to depend on your sports book, but it looks like if you're going to be looking at the 2.5 line there, it's not -110. The -110 line's 1.5. And here, I think at 1.5, this is almost a pick 'em game clearly. And I think that you're looking at the New Orleans Saints. And while, yes, they were disappointing this past week against the New York Giants, where they allowed the Giants to come out here and to throw for over 400 passing yards, this is still a team that has a superior overall coaching staff, overall talent profile, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where Washington has been a really bad defense so far this season. I mean, I did not expect this in the slightest, but if you're looking up what Washington has allowed so far this season, keep in mind this is a team that the entire narrative coming into the year was centered around the talent they had on that defensive line, how many first-round picks they had. Okay, so with Washington, they allowed this week 30 points for the Atlanta Falcons. The week before, 43 points for the Buffalo Bills. The week before that, 29 points by the New York Giants. I mean, this has been a team that the defense has really not been stepping up at all as of late. With the New Orleans Saints here, of course, they're kind of handcuffing Jameis Winston, not letting him throw the ball more than 25 times in a game. I think personally, I'm just going to go through and have this as a stay away game here because I think with both teams, it's really hard to try to figure out who exactly they are right now, and that maybe the Washington football defense does take a step up. And obviously, if you're able to pressure Jameis Winston, bad things are going to happen. Okay, so now our next game is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles going over to play the Carolina Panthers, where the Panthers are currently minus 3.5 to be winning this game. And I think that I'm personally just going to go through and take the Carolina Panthers. Now, I understand that the Eagles, they've looked pretty damn good as of late. I mean, you're looking at that game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, they were able to put up a considerable amount of points, but a lot of those points were actually scored at the end of the game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, the Chiefs have one of the worst defenses in the entire NFL. Carolina has been incredibly impressive. I know they just gave up a ridiculous amount of production to Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard in the overall running game for the Dallas Cowboys at a very high efficiency mark if you're looking at their yards per carry. Still, I want to stand by the fact that this is going to be a good Carolina Panthers run defense. And I think here you're just going to see it where the Panthers, I mean, with DJ Moore taking that step up, with Sam Darnold just looking like a completely different quarterback than what he was in New York. This is a team that has lost one game so far, and that was against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to be taking them 3.5 because this is a very close line. I think Carolina is going to be the call. Like I said, our next game is going to be the Tennessee Titans going over to play the Jacksonville Jaguars, where the Tennessee Titans are currently favored 4 points in this game. Let me look up real quick on RotoWorld what we actually have with Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. My initial assumption is going to be that A.J. Brown's not playing this game. Of course, this will be something you have to go through and track during the week. But if you're looking at this as an instance that you're possibly going to have no Julio Jones, no A.J. Brown at the same time, I mean, I think that you can go through and you could just say that 4 points for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, yes, Urban Meyers looked like a stone cold donkey, while yes, Trevor Lawrence has been very disappointing so far this season. I think 4 points is just a considerable amount here where you're having it with a field goal winning this game by the Tennessee Titans, who just lost. Keep in mind, they just lost to the New York Jets. That's still going to be getting you enough points with the additional 4 points that you're getting added on. I think here we're going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, with the Jaguars, of course, you're essentially just going through, can they stay in this game? Can they just try to limit Derrick Henry to where he's not getting 200 rushing yards? I think there's a good enough chance. They're playing at home as well. Trevor Lawrence did look like he took a small step up this past week. Let's go with Jacksonville Jaguars +4. Now, our next game is going to be the New England Patriots and the Houston Texans, where the spread's going to be 9.5 points on this game. I mean, 9.5 points. Obviously, Davis Mills looking like the worst starting quarterback in the NFL this past week. The New England Patriots here, this is a team that definitely is going to have a defense that they can go through and just shut down an opponent if they have a starting rookie quarterback. That's what you saw against the New York Jets whenever you had Zach Wilson going out there getting limited to 0 passing touchdowns. I believe 4 interceptions at the same time. 9.5 is just a lot, though. I think this is going to be a stay away for us. We're going to stay away from this New England Patriots Houston Texans line. If you can find it at maybe 8.5 there, I think we would take the New England Patriots -8.5, but 9.5 is a considerable amount. Now, our next game is going to be the Chicago Bears versus the Las Vegas Raiders, where the Raiders are favored by 5.5 points here. And with the Bears, I just think we're going to have to stay away from it. It kind of sucks that I'm recording this video so early, but we don't know if they're going to have Justin Fields or Andy Dalton starting at quarterback just yet. So personally, I think we go through and we just say, okay, it's a stay away game. Let's just root for the Raiders because, I mean, obviously you want to see those Raiders fans have something to cheer about, but it's going to be a spot where we have to stay away. Now, our next game is going to be the Cleveland Browns and the Los Angeles Chargers, where these are both teams that have looked fantastic so far this season. I think personally we're going to go with the Browns. Now, if you look at the Chargers, yes, they were able to shut down the run game against Josh Jacobs in this Las Vegas Raiders offense this past week. But if you just take a step back, if you looked at what this Chargers defense does well, this Chargers defense, does a pretty damn good job of shutting down the opponent's passing game while they're not necessarily the best run defense here. And what are the Cleveland Browns built upon? They're built around going and being able to play good defense, run the ball behind an elite offensive line. You are getting an extra 1.5 where they have the Chargers as the favorites right here. Of course, the Chargers are playing in Los Angeles, but is that really even a home game if they're going to be playing in Los Angeles? So I think we're going to go with the Cleveland Browns plus 1.5 here. Now, our next game is going to be the New York Giants going to Arlington, Texas to play the Dallas Cowboys here, where you're going to get the Cowboys as 7-point favorites. And if you're getting the Cowboys as 7-point favorites, I'm very surprised that this line even exists, to be honest. Now, I understand Daniel Jones has looked great so far this season. Going back to what we were talking about previously, if you're looking at adjusted yards per attempt, Daniel Jones has taken a significant step up, where right now he's at 8.5 adjusted yards per attempt, which is definitely going to be a career high mark for him. He's sitting right behind guys like Dak Prescott, Teddy Bridgewater, Joe Burrow. But this Dallas Cowboys offense, they have looked great. And what's really surprising is this Dallas Cowboys defense, centered around Diggs coming out and getting an interception in every single game so far this year. Of course, you can't expect that going forward, but still, it's been a much more impressive defensive unit for the Dallas Cowboys than we were initially expecting. The New York Giants still aren't at 100% strength. So I know we're having to lay a touchdown here, but I think we possibly just go through and take the Dallas Cowboys -7. The Cowboys have looked great so far this year. Now, our next game is going to be a very surprising line. I came out and I was assuming that when we were coming into this video that I was going to say that we were 100% going to be taking Trey Lance and the San Francisco 49ers here. But right now, the 49ers are 5.5-point underdogs to the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals that just look fantastic. The Cardinals just put down a significant beatdown on the Los Angeles Rams, where the Rams, they were favored coming into this game, and Kyler Murray in this overall offense has looked unstoppable. Now, keep in mind, the 49ers have a great defense to go along with this, but, still, so did the Rams. I really wanted to bet on our guy, Trey Lance. Y'all know how excited I am for Trey Lance, but I think we're possibly going to have to go through and have this as a stay away. I think we have to. I was expecting this line to possibly be 7-point Arizona Cardinals favorites. I'm surprised to see it's at 5.5. Now, our next game is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, who are favored by 2.5 points at home against the Buffalo Bills. Now, I know the Bills, they have a better defense, but it's Kansas City here. With the Kansas City Chiefs, I think this is a game where the Chiefs are putting up possibly 40-plus points. They're 100% going to be the highest scoring offense this week. I know it's a very boring analysis, but if you go through, if you look at what you actually had in week 2 and week 3 in those losses from the Kansas City Chiefs, that was mainly driven off of some just unlucky touchdown variants turnover variants that they saw, where you saw some random fumbles, you saw some balls going through receivers' hands, popping up as an interception. Those are not really that sticky going week to week. I think if you just see the fact that they are still sitting at the very top of the NFL and what you're getting from a yards per play standpoint, Mahomes right now is at 9.3 for his adjusted yards per pass attempt. I think we just want to be betting on the Chiefs. I just think Mahomes is someone that if you're only making the Chiefs 2.5-point favorites at home, you're essentially saying that if this was on a neutral game field, that the Buffalo Bills would be favored. I can't agree with that. We're going to take the Chiefs -2.5. Now, our last line we're going to go to is the Indianapolis Colts playing the Baltimore Ravens, where the Ravens are 7-point favorites. Now, keep in mind, no Quentin Nelson here. No Quentin Nelson is going to make an impact. I think this will be a stay away bet for us. However, now, I don't know if we got to officially 5 bets on this video, so I'll say if we have not gotten to 5 bets, then let's throw in the Baltimore Ravens -7 here. But if we've gotten to 5 bets, we're keeping this one off the books, just because with Indianapolis at the time of this recording, there's so many questions centered around the health of this overall team that I think it's just going to be a better spot to stay away. And obviously, this Ravens defense looks legit. The offense does as well. Lamar Jackson's been a much more impressive passer than he's been over the past at least 12 months now. 2019, the touchdown rate was a little bit ridiculous. But yeah, so here we would take the Ravens -7 if we need to get to 5 bets. If we're already at 5 bets, Thomas, do not include this on the official books. And yeah, I think that's all I got for y'all. And please make sure y'all go down there, drop a like in the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. We've been crushing as of late, but I know that I'm an idiot, so I know that we are probably going to get crushed sometime soon. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all, and have a great day.